theyeshiva.net.
Kuf Gimel Amud Beis, the lines, we're middle of the page, the line starts Mimishtiya. See, Loi Aker Daite Mimishtiya, period, Kimata Havdalah Kam Shame, you see? Mamash, the middle of the page, the line starts Mimishtiya. The Gemara mentioned earlier that Rava had a guest, and the guest was a man named Rabbi Yaakov. And Rabbi Yaakov visited him on Shabbos, and he observed a behavior that seemed very strange, and that was that Rava made a special Boire Pri Hagafen, a second Boire Pri Hagafen on the wine after benching. And Rabbi Yaakov questioned why there was the need for that second Boire Pri Hagafen when he already made Boire Pri Hagafen. And Rava explained to him his position and justified it. And the point was that the benching creates a hesach hadas. The benching creates an interruption of the previous meal and the previous drink, and therefore the bracha that applied to the previous drinks cannot apply post-benching, and therefore Rava said he needed to make a new Boire Pri Hagafen after the benching, and the Gemara said that Reb Ashi didn't do that. Reb Ashi would just make one bracha, but Reb Ashi was making a mistake, as the Gemara says, because Reb Ashi's point was that Yakna has Mitzvah Shabbos that is also Yom Tif. You make one hagafen and you say Kiddush on it, and you say Havdalah on it, you say all these brachas on it, and you drink it. You don't have to make a new hagafen. But over there, you didn't bench in the middle. You made Kiddush, you made Havdalah, you didn't uproot your mind from drinking or eating. On the contrary, you're making Kiddush, you're making Havdalah, you're going to eat soon. But here the definition of benching is what? That you're interrupting, you're finished your meal. That's why you're benching. Benching means you're expressing gratitude. You're thanking Hashem for the food and the drinks that He gave you. And as a result of that, the Gemara says Reb Ashi's comparison was wrong, because the definition of benching, by definition, even though you know you're going to drink after benching, you have a cup of wine, you're holding a cup of wine by benching, you know you're going to drink it after. But the very definition of benching is you're thanking the Ribbono Shel Olam for what you ate and what you drank, and therefore it's considered a hefsek. It's considered a heskala, even though I'm not, even if I might say, I'm going to bench and then I'm going to drink this cup of wine. But the very act of benching is an act of hesach hadas. It's an act that basically declares that my previous meal has come to an end, my previous drinking has come to an end, even though I'm holding the cup in my hand and I know in 5 minutes when I finish benching, I'm going to drink it. When I'm making Kiddush and I'm making Havdalah and I'm holding a cup of wine by Kiddush and by Havdalah, it's not considered an interruption of the drinking. Why is Kiddush an interruption of drinking? On the contrary, Kiddush is a preparation for drinking. The same is with Havdalah. Havdalah is not an interruption of a Suda. The definition of Havdalah is you're saying goodbye to Shabbos and you're welcoming Yom Tov. Havdalah min Kodesh l'Kodesh. So since you made Hagefen on the wine, and when you made Birchas Havdalah, you didn't drink it yet. In other words, you still want to drink it, and there was no hesach hadas. So therefore, you don't have to make a new hagafen when you finish the Havdalah. And therefore, Reb Ashi's position was rejected. Ameimar's position, Mar Zutra's position, who said hagafen after benching is maintained, like Rava. And therefore, la halacha, that's what we actually do. Whenever we do benching, we make a separate hagafen after the benching. I want you just to take a look for a moment in Tosfos, the last Tosfos on Daf Kuf Gimel Amud Beis, V'loihi. You see V'loihi? Mamash, the last Tosfos, V'loihi Chuli. The Gemara basically said V'loihi, that Reb Ashi's comparison was a wrong comparison. So Tosfos says, V'hachi maskinon. And therefore this is the conclusion, the Mevarchen Akise de Berchasa. We make a special hagafen, Akase, Kasa Kise. Kasa means the cup of Birchasa, of Birchas Hamazon. We make a special bracha. But I have a problem, says Tosfos. There's a story in the Perek Kisui Adam, which is a Maseches Chulin Pezayin. It's a story about a fascinating story. There was a Tzeduki, a Sadusi, who was eating a meal by Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, the editor of the Mishnah. The Tzedukim was a sect of Jews that developed in the middle of Bayis Sheni, who completely denied Torah Shebaal Peh and created complete chaos in the whole infrastructure of the Jewish people, because the whole authority of the Sanhedrin and Torah and Halacha they did not acknowledge. And as you know, the grandsons of the Chashmonaim, even though the original Chashmonaim was such great tzaddikim, became tzedukim, and the office of the kahuna, of the priesthood, the kahuna that went over the tzeddukim, which created a lot of problems and even civil war during Bayis Sheni. Rabbi, of course, lived after Bayis Sheni. He's the editor of the Mishnah. But he has a tzedukah who's eating the meal by him. Okay. After the meal, says the Gemara, Rabbi tells him, this is just an introduction to the Torah. Rabbi tells him like this. Rabbi did not want to make a mezuman with him. He did not want to have a mezuman with this tzedukah. So he offered him money. So he said, would you like to drink the cup of blessing? Or I have an offer. I'll give you 40 golden coins. Basically, there's 4 blessings in benching. For each bracha, I'm going to give you 10 golden coins as a reward, as a compensation. But now you just said that you make hagafen after benching. The seducer should have come back like a good businessman and said it's 10 for each brachas, then I want 50, not 40, because by the Priya Gafen is also a blessing. The Hasam loy nokat nun mishum Reb Ashi the loy barich akasa de berchasa. Because there's the view of Reb Ashi who did not make hagafen, so therefore he doesn't use the word 50, he uses the word 40, so it works according to all opinions. Sometimes you do benching without a cup of wine. So therefore there's no hagafen, so that's why it's 40. It's just the Bavarinish of Taisvis, why he said 40 and not 50.
Do you think that money handling was not allowed on Shabbos?
No, this wasn't Shabbos, middle of the week.
Because we didn't want use wine in the middle of the week.
Birchas Hamazon is 4 brachas on bread. Hazana Sakayel, Al Aretz Val Hamazon, Uvnei Yerushalayim. 4 brachas of benching, so each one he said, I'm going to give you 10 golden coins. Instead of Kaishal Bracha, which would have been a wonderful offer for him, because he didn't want to do a zimun with the tzedukah. Could be there was could be he had a lot of chshashas, could be a lot of concerns. Yeah, question on the wine, I mean, whatever, a lot of problems. So this is what happens Shabbos by the meal, by Rava, whether it was the first meal or the second meal or Suda Shlishis, where he watched this happen, and Rava explained his position. The Gemara now goes to the next part of the story. Mitzvah Shabbos comes. Says the Gemara, Kimata la'avdullah. When it came for Havdalah, Rava came to make Havdalah. Come Shamayeh, his Shamayeh is his servant, stands up, va'adlik avuka mishraga, and he lights an avuka, which is, he translates as a torch from shraga, from a candle that was burning. Why? Because he wants Rava to be able to make Boire Maria Eish during Havdalah. Amalei, Rabbi Yaakov, the son of Abba, now comes with his next question to Rava. Lamalach kulahai. Why do you need to light this torch? Haman cheshraga. You have already a candle. You have a candle burning, because this Shammai, his servant, used the candle to kindle the torch. So why don't you just make Boire Maria Eish on the candle? Amalei. So Rava answers him, Shama midaite de nafshe ka'avid. My shamash did this on his own. What do you want from me? Come to Rava, what do you need a torch? You have a flame, you have a candle. Why did your servant light a torch? He says, my servant did it on his own. Amalei, Rabbi Yaakov, the son of Abba, says, really? I doubt he would have done anything if he didn't hear it from you. He must have heard it from you. He just doesn't go do things on his own for your Havdalah. If he didn't hear from the master, he wouldn't have done anything.
He's a Jewish servant?
Yeah, probably. Amalei, so Rava responds and says, doesn't the master, Rabbi Yaakov, hold that the greatest, the choicest way of doing the mitzvah by Havdalah is to light a torch? That's why my servant lit a torch and he didn't rely on the candle that was burning.
You said that first.
So the obvious question is, why couldn't Rava say this right away? When Rabbi Yaakov said, what do you need an avuka? You have a candle, what do you need a torch? Why did he say my servant did it on his own? And then he said, impossible. He said, yeah, you're right. It's the right thing to do. Like, it's a little strange. Why can't Rava be Why can't Rava be direct? So the Yavit says, so the Haggas Yavit, Rabbi Yaakov Emden says, that it was a way of triggering curiosity, like in a way of making him more appreciate the idea. Instead of just answering him, it's like let him, triggering curiosity, inquisitiveness, to make the Torah more geschmack, more interesting. So, he extended it. That's what the Yavit says. But I saw that the Magen Avram and the Taz in Shulchan Aruch give a fascinating explanation of this Gemara. The Taz and the Magen Avram answer as follows. In Hilchos Shabbos, in the laws of Shabbos, they give the following explanation. It's Siman Reish Tzadik Ches. In Hilchos Shabbos, they give the following explanation. Those are the laws that deal with Havdalah. So both the Taz and the Magen Avram give this explanation. They say as follows. There was a candle burning, okay? The Shamash took a torch and he lit it from the shraga, from the candle. So Rabbi Yaakov says, why did he have to take a torch? What was his point? It was a single candle. He knew that you take a torch for Havdalah. But why do you have to take a torch? Since you already have a candle burning, just take another candle, light it, and you'll have two candles burning. You'll have two candles burning. You had the first candle, and you light a new candle. And we know when you have two candles, right, together, it's called an avuka. It's called a torch. So Rava says, you're right, my Shamash did this on his own. He did it on his own. I didn't tell him to take a torch and light the torch from the candle. That he decided on his own. So Rabbi Yaakov said, certainly he heard something from you that allowed him to make this error. So Rava says, don't you think an avuka for Havdalah is mitzvah min amufchar? That's what the Shamash heard from me. The Shamash heard from me that the best way to do Havdalah is to use a torch. So he thought that you need a torch in addition to the candle that's burning. That's what he did on his own. In other words, yeah, haven't you heard that Havdalah, avuka, that's what I said. I said avuka is mitzvah min amufchar. And that's what my servant heard from me. So he interpreted it that you always need an avuka. In addition to a candle, you need another torch. He didn't understand that you could use the candle and add another candle. That's how the Magen Avram explains Pshat in the Gemara. Avuka is mitzvah min amufchar. Why is avuka mitzvah min amufchar? What's the reason for this? Like, who cares? The answer is, the Ran gives the answer, the Ran and the Ritva and other Rishonim say, because since we make a bracha, boire ma'orei ha'esh, not ma'or ha'esh, but Allah is like Basil, we say boire ma'orei ha'esh, and an avuka and a torch, you see clearly, why do we say ma'orei, not ma'or? So the Gemara says in brachas, because kama gvani ikka benura, because in a fire, there are many different colors. When you have a torch, it's more visible, the display of the various colors, the rainbow, is more visible and displayed, and that's why mitzvah min amufchar to have an avuka and not just a candle. Even though in any flame, if you look closely, you'll be able to distinguish various colors like black and blue and yellow and orange and red and darker blue, darker black, lighter black, white, etc. But nonetheless, with an avuka, it's more visible. And since we say ma'orei ha'esh, so we use a torch. There's others who say because it gives more light. The whole idea is you're having hana from light, and an avuka gives much more light than a ner. So basically, any ner, any candle that has two wicks is already called an avuka, right? If it's one wick that's interwoven, it's not called an avuka, because usually every wick is woven from a few layers of fabric. That's not called an avuka. But if it already has two wicks, certainly our Havdalah candles that have like 10 wicks or 20 wicks, but even if it has two wicks, it's already called an avuka. And that's why we usually use Mitzvah Shabbos an avuka, mitzvah min amufchar.
I can't put it in the simple way that obviously he had a candle and it wasn't enough. He had to lit something else. Another candle or avuka. But the example was clear. For one candle you can make a dose, so you have to have two. So at least two.
Right, that's what the Taz says. That's what the Taz says. Why did he have to go get a torch and light the torch from the candle, use the candle, and just add another candle? Remember also, things were more scarce. So why do you have to use a torch? You'll use the torch when you need the torch. Just use another candle, which is cheaper, I guess. That was the question. So Rava said he did it on his own. So what do you mean he did it on his own? You didn't tell him to use it? He says, what I told him is that we need a torch. He understood that you always need a torch. You can't just use a candle and another candle. And that was his mistake. But essentially you could. If you have 2 candles, it's fine. You put them together and that's a torch. It's 2 wicks. That's what people do sometimes, right? They put 2 candles together and they have a Havdalah candle.
2 matches.
Yeah. I guess you can use 2 matches if you have no choice, yeah. Says the Gemara.
You don't have to use a torch.
Yeah, you mean Tosfos Rabbeinu Peretz, no? Tosfos, yeah, okay, it's brought in Mordechai, yeah. I saw Tosfos Rabbeinu Peretz, it's quoted in Mordechai. The answer, they give an answer, yeah, B'Shem Diri of Kurbel, I'll tell you their answer. A little complicated. The Mordechai brings it, or Zerua brings it. I think the origin is Tosfos Rabbeinu Peretz. It says as follows. It's based on a chiddush, that even though avuka, a torch, is mitzvah and a mufcher, if you already have a candle burning, then you don't need a torch. You can just use the candle that's burning. In other words, if you're lighting a new candle from scratch, then these Rishonim hold it's a mitzvah and a mufker to light a torch when you have a choice. But if you already have a candle burning, there's no need to go light a torch. You could just use the candle burning. That's their shitta and halacha. Okay? That's why do they make this chiddush? Because that's the only way they understand the story. Based on this chiddush, they understand the story. Why? He says that the Meishiv Rava didn't understand the question, and the one who asked the question didn't understand the answer. Rava thought that this man, Rabbi Yaakov, is asking him, why are you going through this bother to light a torch? You already have a candle on the table. Avuka's mitzvah min amufcher, right? But when you have a candle, you don't need to go pursue an avuka. Okay. Really what he was asking was, he wasn't asking such an intricate question. He was asking a basic question. Why are you b'chalal using a torch? The whole concept was alien to him. He wasn't asking an intricate question. He was asking a basic question. Why are you b'chalal? Rava didn't understand his question. Okay? So Rava basically answered him according to his understanding. And Rava said, you're right. We don't need a torch. My shamash did this on his own. It's not for me. You're right. We have a candle burning. We don't need a torch. Rabbi Yaakov thought that Rava understood his question. Okay? So therefore he told him, what do you mean your shamash did it on his own? What, he makes the religion here? He follows orders. He's your shamash. He's been training by you. He's in your house. He knows what you want him to do. He's not lighting torches on his own. Okay? Because Rabbi Yaakov thought that Rava understood his question. His question wasn't intricate. His question was basic. Why using a torch? So Rava says, oh, it's not me. It's my servant. Really? Your servant makes a religion there? So Rabbi Yaakov challenges him. Okay? So now Rava understands that he never understood Rabbi Yaakov's question. Rabbi Yaakov's question wasn't, if you have a candle, what do you have to go for an avuka? And Rava basically said, well, I didn't. The shamash did it on his own. No, he understood basically the whole idea was alien to him. Well, he never heard of this. So therefore he said, oh, of course. Of course the shamash heard from me that you need a torch. It's better than a candle. Have you not heard that an avuka is mitzvah and amufcher? But that's only if there's no candle burning. If there's a candle burning, then you don't need an avuka. And that was his own chiddush. That's my shamash's own chiddush. That even if there's a candle, you have to go get a torch. And that's why I answered you lechatchila that my servant did it. This is what you mean? Okay. So we have 3 answers. The Yavit says what? It was just to sharpen it up. The Magen Avram and the Tas say that the vart was because he knew you need an avuka, but he said you could just use a second candle. What do you need a separate avuka, right? And the Mordechai and the Zerua bring that it was actually a chiddush, and based on a chiddush and halacha, that if you have a candle, you b'chalal don't need an avuka. You could just use the candle. The avuka is only if you're coming to do something new. But to go make him be matriach and light a new fire as a torch, that you don't have to. If you don't have anything, and you have an avuka, it's better to do an avuka. That's what it's based on. According to them, it would be halacha l'maisa, yeah? According to these Rishonim, it would be halacha l'maisa. That if there's a candle burning, you could just leave it. If you have a candle burning from Shabbos, You could just leave it. If you're going to light a new candle, then...
It's a minimum or stop.
Right. The pella would be that so it should have been brought in halacha, but it's not brought in halacha, which is why the Magen and the Ram and the Taz don't like that answer. They don't like that answer. Their answer is that no, you need an avukah always, but when you have a candle, you could just light another candle. You don't have to light a new avukah. Next case, Rabbi Yaakov didn't give Rava such an easy time, so now we're finished with Hagafen. We're finished with Boire Moria Eish. Now it's time to make Havdalah. Pasach Rava starts making Havdalah v'amr, and he says, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, hamavdil ben kodesh l'chol ben l'choshech ben Yisrael amim ben yoyim hashvi l'sheshes yimei hamasa. He who separates between the holy and the mundane, between light and darkness, between the Jews and the nations, between the seventh day and the 6 days of work. Amalei, Rabbi Yaakov says, Lama loch kulahai. What do you have to make such a long Havdalah? V'amar Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yehuda said in the name of Rabbi Mavdil ben Kodesh l'chol zui Havdalos ish Rabbi Yehuda Anasi. Rabbi Yehuda Anasi, let me tell you what his Havdalah looked like. He picked up his cup, he made Hagafen, he made Psamim, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, hamavdil ben Kodesh l'chol. That's it. Zui Havdalos Rabbi Yehuda Anasi. You're saying hamavdil ben Kodesh l'chol, ben oil l'choshech, ben Yisrael la'am, ben yem hashvil l'sheres with an end. Baruch atah Hashem. You don't need this. Why did you need to have this whole arichas? Amalei Rava said, Anaka hasvirili. I hold like another opinion. The Amar Rebbe Lazar, Amar Rebbe Shir, Rebbe Lazar, in the name of Rebbe Shir, hapoiches. If you want to do a brief Havdalah, lo yivchos mishalish. You should not do less than 3 terms of Havdalah. 3 genres of separation in the world. V'hamoisif, and if you want to go in the big, you want to add lo yosef al sheva. Do not add on 7. As the Gemara is going to explain, we find in the Torah 7 genres of Havdalah, 7 things that the Torah discusses are separated from something else. For example, light from darkness, right? In Parshas Bereshis, Vayavdil Elokim bein ha'or u'bein ha'choshech. We have in Parshas Shmini this week, Lahavdil bein ha'tamei v'ha'tor. We're soon going to see there are 7 types of Havdalos, types, genres of separation in the Torah. So the Rabbi says that in Havdalah, don't do less than 3, and don't add more than the 7 that are discussed in the Torah. Yeah, you could make Havdalah between chocolate ice cream and vanilla ice cream. You could make Havdalah between a lot of things, but don't add to the 7 Havdalahs in Torah. So Rava says, I follow the opinion of Rabbi Shia, and therefore I did Hamavdil ben Kodesh l'chol, ben Ar l'choshech, ben Yisrael amim, ben Yom hashvil l'jeshes ma'aseh. Even though I know that Rabbi Yehuda Hanosi didn't hold that way. He held that you could just say Hamavdil ben Kodesh l'chol, and you're good. That's the nusach of Havdalah. So we had here Rabbi Yaakov staying by Rava, and he really, Rava didn't have an easy Shabbos with him. He made Hagafen, and he wanted to know the Hagafen, and then by the candle, he wanted to know why a torch, and now by the Havdalah, again, Rabbi Yaakov is curious. But it shows you how a student works. Yeah, you come to the Rebbe, and you want to know everything, why he's doing this, why he's doing this, why he's doing this, and Rava explains to him everything. All these 3 things, Rava explains to him.
Is this 3 things or it's 4?
Oh, excellent question. Amalei, Rabbi Yaakov turns to Rava and says, excuse me, you didn't do not 3, not 7. You did 4. Kodesh l'chol, or l'choshech, Yisrael la'amim, yoyim hashvi l'sheshes ma'amaisa. Not 3 and not 7. In other words, what was your point of 4? If you want to do the minority, do 3. If you want to do the majority, do 7. What was your point of doing dafka 4? Amalei, Rava says, Ivra. Ivra means truthfully. How do they translate Ivra? Truthfully. In truth, ben yoyim hashvi l'sheshes ma'amaisa ein chsimei. I really was trying to do only 3. The last one, ben yoyim hashvi l'sheshes ma'amaisa, was me'ein chsimei, meaning it was already part of the end. What do I mean? Because Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel, Rabbi Yehuda said the name of Shmuel. Hamavdil tzorich sheyayma me'ein achsima samach l'chsimasa. When you're making Havdalah, before you come to the end of the blessing, the text right before the end, right before the sealing of the blessing, should be similar to the sealing, to the chsima, to the conclusion of the blessing. What do we mean? All long brachas, including Havdalah, are made up of 3 parts. A psicha, a chasima, and an emtza. The beginning, the opening, the end, and the body, the middle of it. All long brachas have that. as the Gemara is saying here, when you finish the bracha, the middle of the bracha, you have the beginning of the bracha, the opening, and then you have the end of the bracha, Baruch Atah Hashem, how you end the bracha, and then you have the body in the middle of the bracha. Any long bracha has that. Right, like let's say in davening, you have Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, Yotzei Avei Cheshach Shalom Leveris Sakayil. Then you have the long text, then you have the end, Baruch Atah Hashem Yotzei HaMa'oris. So what Reb Shmuel taught us is that me'ein the chsima should be, samach l'chsima should be me'ein hachsima. Meaning, the middle bracha, the middle part of the bracha, the end of it, should be with words that are thematically connected to the actual conclusion of the bracha. Me'ein hachsima. It should be from the same genre, the same theme as the conclusion of the bracha. What's the conclusion of the Havdalah bracha? Baruch Atah Hashem, Hamavdil, Ben Kodesh, L'choil. So therefore, Rava says, I finished the body of the bracha, not Ben Or L'choshech, Ben Yisrael La'amim, but I finished Ben Yoim HaShvi L'Sheish Simah Ma'is. Really, I was doing 3 Havdalas. Ben Or L'choshech, Yisrael La'amim, Kodesh L'chol, Or L'choshech, Yisrael La'amim. Why did I add Yoim HaShvi L'Sheish Simah Ma'is? Not to add a 4th Havdalah, but in order to be able, it's like it's basically getting ready for the end. The end would be Hamavdil ben Kodesh L'choil, between holy and mundane. So I did ben Yoim HaShvi L'Sheish Simah Ma'isa. If I would have not done it, I would have had Hamavdil ben Kodesh L'choil ben Yisrael La'amim Baruch Atah Hamavdil ben Kodesh L'choil, and that's a separate issue. Kodesh L'choil is Shabbos and weekdays. Yisrael La'amim are Jews and nations of the world. Yoim HaShvi and Sheish Simah Ma'isa is me'ein hachasima. It's similar to the genre of the end of the bracha. So Rava said, really, I was following 3 havdalas. I added 1 more, so it should be me'ein hachasima.
What was his question?
Why 4?
No.
Why do 4?
Because we're between, what's what you want? You shouldn't have less, shouldn't have more. You could have
The pashtos, you could, excellent. What's his question? What does he care if he does 4? On one level, he was asking him, why 4? What was your cheshbon? Do 3, I understand. Yeah, why 4? Like, I understand 3, I understand 7. Why 4? Like, we say in Yiddish, nish taher, nish tahin. Like, you want to do maximum, do maximum. You want to do minimum, do minimum. Why 4? That's on one level. So Rava answered, I didn't do 4, I did 3. I was just following the directive of Shmuel. Tosfos adds something else. Tosfos says, on the top, Kuf Daled, umestame oy gimel oy zayin tiknu keneged shum davar. Tosfos understood that Rabbi Oshia didn't mean you could do between 3 and 7. He meant either 3 or 7, because probably these numbers are significant and connected to something for Havdalah. And that's what Rabbi Yaakov understood. And Rava agreed. And Rava said, I thought I did 3. Zog the Gemara weiter. Pumbedissa Amri. The sages of Pumbedissa said, Me'en psichoson samach l'chsimason. Not like Shmuel. Before the end of the bracha, you should do something that's connected to the beginning of the bracha, to the opening of the bracha. That's what you should do. In other words, when you come to the end, right before the end, do something that's connected to the psicha of the bracha. What's the difference practically? Take Havdalah. The beginning and the end is exactly the same. Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, Hamavdil, Ben Kodesh L'choil. That's the psicha. The end is exactly the same. Hamavdil, Ben Kodesh L'choil. So what's the difference? If you add words that are the theme of the beginning or the theme of the end. In most brachas, the beginning and the end are connected. Yeah. So the Gemara says, Ika beinayu. You're right. Often there's no difference, but sometimes there is a difference. For example, Yom Tov shechali is Achar HaShabbos. Yom Tov, that is Mitzvah Shabbos. The Chasminon, the end of Havdalah is Bein Kodesh LeKodesh. The beginning of Havdalah by Kiddush is Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, Hamavdil Ben Kodesh L'chol, Ben Or L'choshech, Ben Yisrael La'amim, Ben Yoim HaShvi L'Sheish Simah Ma'isa. Right? But the end of it is Hamavdil Ben Kodesh L'Kodesh. Man damar mein psichos samach l'chsimason. So the opinion of Pumbedissa, that you have to bring in from the beginning, close to the end of the bracha, loy boyel meimer ben kedushas Shabbos l'kedushas Yom Tov Havdalta. You don't have to put in at the end of the Havdalah Mitzvah Shabbos. You made a Havdalah between kedushas Shabbos and kedushas Yom Tov. Why? Because you're finishing Hamavdil Ben Kodesh L'Choil. You're finishing Hamavdil Ben Kodesh L'Kodesh. That's your end. Your beginning is Hamavdil Ben Kodesh L'Choil, so you don't have to bring in here Ben Kedushas Shabbos L'Kedushas Yom Tov Hivdalta. You don't have to bring that in. Since you're opening the Havdalah ben Kodesh l'chayil, so you could finish the Havdalah like you finish every Havdalah. How do you finish every Havdalah? Ben Yoim HaShvi, l'sheish yisimei ha'maisa, which is me'ein ha'psicha, and then you say Hamavdal ben Kodesh l'kodesh, because you started off Hamavdal ben Kodesh l'chayil. But man, damra mein chsimason samach l'chsimason. But according to the opinion that you have to, in the text of the bracha right before the end, you have to bring in the text that is at the end. You have to add one more word. You can't finish because then the chsima and right before the chasima are not uniform. So you have to bring in the theme of what? Of Ben Kedushas Shabbos, L'Kedushas Yom Tov Havdalta. So now it's Hamavdal Ben Kodesh L'Kodesh, which is Shabbos and Yom Tov. So this is how Rav explained why he put in Ben Yom HaShvi L'Sheish Yisimei HaMaisa, and where there would be a practical implication of this machlokes. Of course, we do at the end in our Havdalah, we do Ben Kedushas Shabbos, L'Kedushas Yom Tov Havdalta, and then we even add Havdalta v'Kidashta, right? As Amcha Yisrael, B'Kedushas Secha, v'Yom HaShvi, M'Sheish Yisimei HaMaisa Kidashta, and then we go Baruch Atah Hashem HaMavdal Ben Kodesh L'Kodesh. Just an interesting area here in Tosfos. If you take a look in Tosfos, my beinayu, the Rova brachas apsicha v'achsima me'inyan echad. Boi lemeimar ben kedushas Yom Tov, ben kedushas Shabbos, kedushas Yom Tov Havdalta. Just give me a siddur. You mind give it any siddur is fine. How do we do our kiddush? Mitzvah Shabbos, which is Yom Tov. Let's think about our kiddush. Hamavdal ben Kodesh l'chol ben oil l'chaysh ben yisrael amim ashvil l'sheish yisimei ha'maisa. Now we're good. We could go to Baruch Atah Hashem Hamavdal ben Kodesh l'kodesh, but we learned we have a problem. Why? Because we want it to be me'ein hachsima samach l'chsima. So we add ben kedushas Shabbos l'kedushas Yom Tov Havdalta. We bring in Shabbos and Yom Tov, so now we could say Hamavdal ben Kodesh l'kodesh. But then we add a new thing. Ves yoim hashvi m'sheish yisimei ha'maisa kidashta. We're now going back to Shabbos and Chol. Then we do Havdalta v'Kidashtas Amcha Yisrael b'Kedushas Secha. So now we're back to Ben Yisrael la'amim. Baruch Atah Hashem Havdal Ben Kodesh l'Kodesh. And the Gemara ignores it. So Tosfos says, Shor Rabbeinu Ephraim es Rabbeinu Tam. Rabbeinu Ephraim es Rabbeinu Tam. Oy bazoi, lama nagu ha'olam lo'hoise v'loimar es yom hashvi m'sheish yisimei ha'maisa kidashta. Havdalta v'Kidashtas Amcha Yisrael Bi Kedusha Secha, the Einzel Loy Me'en Psicha, V'Loy Me'en Chsima. I understand you want to be Yotze both days, but it's not. It's neither. You're getting in. You already did Yom HaShvi, you did Yisrael Am Yom Shemesa. You did Kedusha Shabbos, Kedusha Yom Tov. So you should have what? You should have the Me'en HaChasima, right? The Me'en HaChasima. Because you did Kodesh, right? So you did Ben Kedushas Shabbos and Kedushas Yom Tov Havdalta. If you would hold that you need Me'ein HaPsicha, you wouldn't need Kedushas Shabbos and Kedushas Yom Tov Havdalta because you already did Yom HaShvi l'Sheish Yisimei HaMaisa. So you added that. But Vikum Tarain, this Maisa with Yom HaShvi from Sheish Yisimei HaMaisa, right? And then Havdalta v'Kidashta as Amcha Yisrael b'Kedushas Secha. That's what Rabbeinu Ephraim asked Rabbeinu Tam. V'heishiv loy Rabbeinu Tam. So Rabbeinu Tam answered him a very interesting teretz. What was his teretz? Mishum chibas hayoim, because of the love of the day, herichu. Because of the love of the day, it's Yom Tov, herichu. They made a longer Havdalah. Why a longer Havdalah? Kidei loymar pam achas me'ein zayin Havdalos. So at least one time, you should do a text that represents something of the 7 types of separations. What do we mean? So he says like this. You start off, Hamavdal ben Kodesh l'chayil. That's 1. Ben Or l'choshech is Beis. Ben Yisrael la'amim is Gimel, right? Ben Yom HaShvi l'Sheish Yisimei HaMaisa is Dalet. Now usually in a normal week, we're done. We do now Havdalah. We're finished, right? Now you go like this. Ben Kedushas Shabbos l'Kedushas Yom Tov Havdalta. Now you bring in a new Havdalah. The Havdalah between 2 things that are holy, between Shabbos and Yom Tov. Pirush, what's that Havdalah? Says Rabbeinu Tam, Shebi Yom Tov Shari Midi D'Oichel Nefesh. Yom Tov you're allowed to cook. You're allowed to prepare food. Shabbos you're not allowed to. Then we go, Ves Yom HaShvi M'Sheish Yisimei HaMaisa Kidashta. What do you mean? But you already did. Ben Yoim Hashvi l'Sheshes Yimei HaMaisa. Taichus Rabbeinu Tam Pirush Hainu Michoyloi Shal Moyet. Even Chol HaMoyet. There's the difference between Shabbos and Yom Tif. And then there's a difference between Shabbos and Chol HaMoyed. The Shari Davar HaAvod, the Shabbos Asr. Chol HaMoyed, you're allowed to do more than Yom Tif. You're allowed to do business with something that's going to get lost, which on Shabbos you're not allowed to. So there's the Havdalah of Shabbos and Yom Tif. Yom Tif you can't do business, but you could cook. Then there's the Havdalah of Shabbos and Chol HaMoyed, which is a lower level of Yom Tif. And this is V'zeh Chiluk Shabbos me Yom Tif. So we mentioned two things. Kedushas Shabbos, Kedushas Yom Tif. Yom HaShvi, Misheshes Yimei HaMaisa is not the regular 6 days of the week. It's the 6 days that include Chol HaMoyed, which is a form of Yom Tif. Vihi Havdalah Achas. This is one Havdalah, Harei Hey. It's the Havdalah between Shabbos and Yom Tif, including Yom Tif and Chol HaMoyed, which is part of Yom Tif. Next, Hivdalta v'kedashtas amcha Yisrael b'kedushasecha. Now you separated the Jewish people. You already did Ben Yisrael Am. It says, Shtei Kedushas. Koyanim Leviim Uli Yisraelim. This is fascinating. You have the Havdalah between Koyanim and Leviim, and between the Leviim and the Yisraelim. So mainly you have 7. And this, Hava Me'ein Chsima, the Ben Kodesh LeKodesh. Because Yisraelim are also holy. Rabbi Krieger, you're not the only holy one here. We're also holy. But it's Kodesh LeKodesh, so it's Me'ein Achsima. So it's interesting. The Gemara says that what you do Me'ein Achsima, Ben Kedusha Shabbat Dalta. The world added a few more words. Why? Because Chibas Hayoim, they wanted to put in 7 Havdalas. And it works because the last Havdalah is not between Jews and nations. It's between Jews and Jews, 2 Kedushas. You have Koyanim, it's a higher Kedusha, from Leviim and Yisrael. And then you have Leviim is Kedusha also Legabi Yisraelim. And then you finish Hamavdil being Kodesh, LeKodesh, like Shabbos and Yom Tov. No, you have Ben Yisrael Am in the beginning. Ben Kodesh L'Chol, Ben Oy L'Choshech, Ben Yisrael Am is 3, right? Ben Yom HaShvi L'Sheish Tzimamai says 4. Then you have 5, Kedushas Shabbos, Kedushas Yom Tif. And then you have 6, 7, right? Which is Kedash Tzam Chesed V'Josacha.
Why don't we mention
do it?
So you have 7 Havdalas.
Why don't we mention the other Havdalas that in Torah, which is Torah, Tahora in Tumah,
Why do we mention Tamei and Tahor? The answer is, right, and we'll soon see those 7 Havdalas, because this is all an environment of Kedusha. Shabbos Yom Tov is not Tahir and Tameh. So we stick all within the environment of Kedusha. Yeah. There's different types of Havdalas. Higher level of Havdalas, lower levels of Havdalas. Right, so Chutz La'aretz, there's Tumah and so forth.
What does Kahanim Levim have to do with Dalta and Yaakov? The
Pasuk says, Vayibadel Aaron, Lahavdiloi, Vayibadel Aaron. Hashem separated Aaron.
I know, but what does that have to do with
Hivdalta v'kidashtas Amcha Yisrael b'kedushasecha means within Amcha Yisrael themselves there's separation. That's Gavaldik Chiddush. That's what Rabbeinu Tam answered Rabbeinu Ephraim. So therefore, we now understand the text of Yom Tov.
Is Rabbeinu Tam a Rebbe? Both grandchildren of...
Yeah.
So Rabbeinu Tam in this case is with the Yitzhak?
Rabbeinu Tam's name was Yaakov. They called him Tam. His name was Yaakov, Rabbeinu Yaakov.
So I thought there was a Rabbeinu Yitzhak.
Yaakov is called Tam. Ish Tam Yoshev Eholim. There's another reason he's called Rabbeinu Tam, but it's a whole story.
It's Yaakov and Ephraim.
Yeah. Rabbeinu Ephraim asked Rabbeinu Tam what the svara was. So the Gemara says, Gufa, we learned, Amar Rebbe Lazar, Amar Rebbe Yisrael, in the name of Rebbe Yisrael, Apoiches la yivches mishalish, v'amoisef la yosef al sheva, right? No less than 3, no more than 7. Meisve, we have a brayse that refutes this. The brayse says, Oimer Havdalos Mitzay Shabbosos Mitzay Yom Tov Mitzay Yom Kippurim Mitzay Shabbos LeYom Tov uMitzay Yom Tov LeChol Shal Moed Avaloi b'Mitzay Yom Tov LeShabbos. When do you say Havdalah? Mitzay Shabbos, Mitzay Yom Tov, Mitzay Yom Kippur, Mitzay Shabbos that goes into Yom Tov, right? Yaknahas. Mitzay Yom Tov that goes into Chol HaMoed, but never Mitzay Yom Tov that goes into Shabbos. Right? When Yom Tov ends and you go into Shabbos, there's only Kiddush. There's no Havdalah.
Why don't you make Havdalah?
We don't.
From you're saying from Shabbos to Yom Tov and davening, you don't have a verbal declaration?
Friday night, when you go into Shabbos, you don't do Havdalah, ever.
No, not Havdalah, mechanics of Havdalah, but where's the verbal declaration that separates?
There's no, that's the Chiddush.
So that's the Chiddush.
Yeah. You always, whenever you leave a holy day, you make Havdalah. Mitzvah Shabbos Havdalah, Mitzvah Yom Tov Havdalah, Mitzvah Yom Kippur Havdalah, Mitzvah Shabbos, even on Yom Tov Havdalah, Mitzvah Yom Tov, even Chalamayid Havdalah, right? Like after the first night of Pesach or the first 2 nights of Pesach, you make Havdalah. Why? Whenever you leave a Kedusha, there's a verbal declaration called Havdalah. But not Mitzvah Shabbos that goes into Yom Tov. Why? What's the svara of this? I'm sorry. Mitzvah Yom Tov that goes into Shabbos.
We're talking about the verbal declaration or the act of Havdalah.
Both. Huh? Oh, so the answer is, Havdalah is only when the Kedusha of the day that left was more stringent, more intense than the new day. B'meila, when Mitzvah Yom Tov falls out on the night of Shabbos, you don't make Havdalah. Why? Because you're going into a stronger Kedusha. You're not going into a weaker Kedusha. When you're going into Chol HaMoed or Mitzvah Shabbos that goes into Yom Tov, you're going into a weaker Kedusha. But if it's Friday night, Mitzvah Yom Tov, you're going into a stronger Kedusha. To understand this, the Rashbam gives us the metaphor. What did the Gemara say before about Shabbos? Shabbos is the king. Yom Tov is the duke. When the king leaves, the Gemara says, you escort the king first before you welcome the duke. That's why Shmuel said you make first Havdalah, then you make Kiddush. Now what happens if you have the following scenario? The duke is leaving town and the king is coming into town. What do? Do you go escort the duke or do you go welcome the king? Right? You go welcome the king. So therefore, because everyone is busy with welcoming the king, they don't escort the duke outside. If the king is not coming in, then you escort the duke. So regular Mitzvah Yom Tov, you have to make Havdalah. But if it's Mitzvah Yom Tov and Shabbos is coming in, now the simcha of the welcoming of the king overshadows, so to speak, overwhelms the grief of the duke leaving. When there's no king and the duke leaves, it's a ganze, it's a chashav esach. But when the king is coming, it's like lighting a candle in the middle of the day. So b'meila, it's not so toifus makim. The Kedusha of Yom Tov becomes almost subsumed in the Kedusha of Shabbos. The Kedusha of Shabbos takes over, so you don't make Havdalah. Very interesting halach.
Yom Kippur then it's
Mitzvah Yom Kippur, you make Havdalah, of course. Chiddush benefesh. Yom Kippur leaves. It's Shabbos, and it's even holier than Shabbos in some ways. Says the Brayse, Haragil Omer Harbe. If you know the language, there were no Sidurim then. So if you know the languages, you could say all the Havdalas, or many. V'sheini Ragil Omer Achas. If you're not used to it, then just say one Havdalah. What do we see from here? That the Brayse clearly says you could do one Havdalah. Rabbi Shia said you can't do less than 3. So the Gemara says, you're right, Tanoi, it's a machlokes of Tanoim. It's not a machlokes. Rabbi Shia held you have to do 3 minimum. This Brayse held you have to do only 1, unless you know more. It's actually a machlokes of Tanoim. The Amar Rabbi Yochanan said, B'non shal Gedoshim. Fascinating. The son of the holy ones. Omer Achas. He says 1 text of Havdalah, the rest of the people have the minhag to say 3. So Rabbi Yochanan made this statement. So we see clearly that there's 2 ways of doing Havdalah. We learned before, Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi used to say 1 Havdalah. That's what Rabbi Yaakov asked. Rava, why are you doing 3 Havdalahs? Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi used to do 1 Havdalah. Right? He said in the name of Rav that now we see something new. The Brayse says you could do 1 Havdalah. And Rabbi Yochanan agrees. B'non shel Gedoshim used to do 1, and the rest of the nation did 3 texts of Havdalahs. So obviously the nation wasn't doing a mistake. What do we see from Rabbi Yochanan is that there was another shitta that you have to do 3, and that's why the Am did 3. So Mela, it's like a machlokes Tanoim. And Rabbi Shia holds with the Tanoim who say you need at least 3, like the Am, like the nation. And the Brayse is like the B'non shel Gedoshim and Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi who says you can do 1.
So what about the Vayafula when you're in Shabbos from Yom Tov? The Vayafula only refers to Malacha of the normal Shabbos. You have a separate.
Yeah, because when you go into Yom Tov from Shabbos, you're decreasing. You could start cooking. Mitzvah Shabbos, you could cook.
So going to Shabbos from Yom Tov. say we don't make it's not a Havdalah, but we make a separation and we identify that we don't do the Malakas of Yom Tov on Shabbos by saying Vayakula. Is that true or not? When we're going into Shabbos from Yom Tov, we have a Shabbos Dika Morev, right? We say Vayakula.
Of course.
We have a Vayakula there. So the Vayakula refers to...
Yeah. Yes.
We're not referring to the Malakas.
Yes. In other words, when Friday night is Mitzvah Yom Tov, right, we are now elevating ourselves to a new Kedusha, because on Friday we could cook, for example.
I'm asking about the Vayakula.
Yes, that's the Vayechulu.
It's not a Havdalah, but it is an identity.
Yes, of course. We're making Kiddush. We're not making Havdalah. We're welcoming the king. We're not escorting the duke. You get it? We're not escorting the duke, we're welcoming the king.
It's Kiddush D'Oraisa that we make, that we put...
In other words, and it's very interesting, there's no hefsek between Yom Tov and Shabbos. It's seamless. It's a seamless flow. Because the duke becomes subsumed in the king. Because the duke is tuffle to the king.
Care about the minister because
The minister is part of the king. So when you have the king, you have everything. When you only have the minister, you have the minister. When you have the king, you have everybody. You have everything.
But I thought you learned that there's actually a cheshivas in Yom Tov.
Ein a chanami. In contrast.
And it's lower in terms of its...
In Kedusha, yeah. Yes. Shabbos is a malachas, a chiyuv misa, yeah. Even the malachas that you're not allowed to do on Yom Tov, there's a whole different level on Shabbos in terms of penalty and stringency. So we really have here two streams about Havdalah. Frag the Gemara, Mani Bnon Shel Kedoshim. What type of identification is this? Rabbi Yochanan should have said, this man said, who's this Bnon Shel Kedoshim? The son of holy ones, Bnon Shel Kedoshim. It's a famous expression today. This is where it comes from. Who's this Bnon Shel Kedoshim? So the Gemara answers, Reb Menachem bar Simoi. His name was Reb Menachem, the son of Simoi. Why did they call him Bnon Shel Kedoshim? So the Gemara says, the lo yistakel b'tzura sedezuzah. He wouldn't even look at the tzura, at the picture, at the image of a coin.
Because it's about a Zara.
Oh.
So don't create for yourself.
Means you never must really touch my
Vessel.
Stange cooking Geld.
So it's a good question you're asking. You're asking if it's Avodah Zarah, then you don't have to be a Bnon Shel Kedoshim, not to focus on Avodah Zarah. So you see from this Gemara that halachically you are allowed to look at the picture of the coin. Reb Menachem bar Simoi was called a Bnon Shel Kedoshim because of this. So you have to distinguish, and this is a distinction that Tosfos makes in Masechet Shabbos, that when it's Avodah Zarah, a picture of Avodah Zarah, then it says, Al tifnu el ha'elilim, you're not allowed to look at it. But if it's a picture that's not for Avodah Zarah, just for beauty or currency or whatever the reason is, so then it was Reb Menachem bar Simoi who did not look at that picture. In other words, even the tzuras of a matbeya, he was so in the world of holiness, in the world of Avodas Hashem, that he did not divert his attention from it.
Coin today generally has a face of a president on it, right? So that
Coins today have faces of presidents, yeah. It's all about the Benjamins. You can ask Congresswoman Omer. She says it's all about the Benjamins. It's all about the money. She never met Reb Menachem bar Simoi.
the image of a face on a coin is kind of like a pesel, could say.
Right, but it's not Avodah Zarah. It's not Avodah Zarah. Yeah. So leistakel b'tzura sedezuz. Even the tzura of a matbei, he didn't look at it. Meaning he was completely engulfed and entangled in the service of God, and therefore he didn't even look at the tzura of a matbei. Now it's interesting, he's called B'non Shel Kedoshim, right? Tosfos says, Toile Gdushase ba'aviv, shegam aviv haya kadosh. In other words, it doesn't mean his father was holy and he wasn't holy. You're talking about him. You're talking about Reb Menachem. You're not talking about Reb Menachem's father. He's called B'non Shel Kedoshim because you're saying he was also the son of a Kaddish. But it doesn't take away from the fact, obviously, when your father is a Kaddish, so that's how he educates you, so it has a deep impact on the child, but it doesn't mean that he wasn't a Kaddish. We're not talking about, the story about Tzur Seduzah is not about his father, because then we would talk about his father, not about him. He's called B'non Shel Kedoshim because he himself was a Kaddish, but we're also attributing it to his father who was also a Kaddish. That's what Tosfos makes very clear. Tosfos, the loy mistakel b'tzura sedezuzah. Tzura sedezuzah. The first part of the Tosfos is interesting. Take a look. You would think maybe we're talking about his father. So he says, no, Reb Menachem Kai. This is going on Reb Menachem. Reb Menachem himself did not look at it. The Abba of Moed Katan Perek Basa, the Gemara says in the last chapter of Moed Katan Daf Chafei, Ki kanayche nafshe Reb Menachem Reb Simoi, when Reb Menachem, the son of Reb Simoi, passed away, Ishtanu kol tzilam naya, vehevu lemichtzalaya. What does this mean? It means all the tzlamim, all the images, all the visages, all the pictures that were engraved in coins were changed. What does it mean that were changed? So Tosfos says, Pirush chalakim beloy tzura. What's pshat chalakim beloy tzura? They became smooth, like chalak, smooth without a tzura. Something unique happened when he passed away. Something unique happened. It was like
That means they were curved then.
The world was grieving his passing. The world was grieving. When his tzura was gone from the world, and he was somebody who never looked at the tzura of a matbeya, so all the tzuras were gone. So yeah. It says, V'toyle kedushasei ba'aviv, shegam aviv hayakadosh. It's just he attributes the kedusha to his father, that his father was also holy. So Tosfos is bringing a raya from this, that this was not only about his father, this was actually about him. About him. That with his tzura changing, obviously when he passed away, his image changed, all the tzuras of the matbeya also changed. So it's interesting, by disengaging from them, it's not that he didn't have an impact. He had a deeper impact. Because he wasn't defined by it. He defined it didn't define him. So all the tzuras, the currency lost its intensity and its images in his passing. L'chayr, if he never looked at a tzuras matbeya, what's his shaykhis? Apparently he had a deeper impact because he wasn't defined by it. Right? So he had an influence on it that was powerful. So he's the one who said Kedusha. Rabbi Yochanan said he would say one Kedusha. Hamavdil ben Kodesh L'cha. He would say Hamavdil ben Kodesh L'cha. He didn't look at the tzur of a matbeya. I saw the Mesifta Gemara brings...
He undermined all the markets. He undermined all the markets.
After he passed away, you found.
Well, that's what the Gemara says, that when he passed away, that meant that the currency, is that like in the...
No, he never looked at the tzura de zuzah. When he passed away, all the tzuras were affected. What's the...
It's just the Monsey that they lost their tzura, in which case they didn't lose their value, they just...
No, they didn't lose their value because the value was silver. The silver remained, the weight of silver remained, 20 grams, 50 grams.
They couldn't be used as coins, they were a commodity then, right? So
Perhaps, yeah.
I'm asking, like in the fourth parak in Bava Metzia, which is the currency and which is the...
Right. You're saying maybe it was not a coin anymore, it was just an asset of silver.
You could use it for exchange.
As a silver weight. I hear.
You couldn't purchase with it. It could be purchased, it had more value in that sense.
Huh? It didn't have the tzura
It
anymore.
had more value in that sense. It became a commodity.
Basically, when he passed away, all the coins became what he always thought of them.
They had real value.
Yeah, he didn't look at the tzura. The coins, basically, in his passing, there was like, I guess, his energy, his soul's energy impacted the world, that it became what he was. You know, they say when you're alive, you have power. When you die, you start having influence. His influence was felt in the world, right? It's felt in the world. Poel Yeshuas, B'Kerev Haaretz. That basically how he looked at the coin became taka the Metzias of the coin. Became the Metzias of the coin. They bring over here, the Mesifta Gemara brings different interpretations of what it means. The Chaim Sofer. So we learned from Tosfos and Avodah Zarah and Shabbos, what's the big deal that he didn't look at the coins if it's Avodah Zarah? So Tosfos answers, because it's not an inyan of Avodah Zarah, it's just a concept of beauty, or people are it's part of the country's custom, it's not necessarily Avodah Zarah. So therefore you're allowed to look at it, but he didn't look at it.
Maybe because at that time they encrypted some elements of Avodah Zarah.
Perhaps, yeah. Yeah. Well, if it's Avodah Zarah, would be an issue for everybody. The Chaim Sofer says something else. He says, there's a Tosfos in Baba Kama, the Gemara says that in the currencies of Jerusalem, they had on the coin, on one side David and Shloimeh, and on the other side of Yerushalayim, and the currency of Avram Avinu, they had older man and woman on one side and a young boy and girl on the other side. So Tosfos says in Baba Kama Tzadik Zayin, it doesn't mean that there were actually images of an old man or an old woman. It means it was written. It was written, Yerushalayim and David and Shlomo, or a Zaken and Skena, not that there were images. The Chaim Sofer says that the concept of engraving images and coins happened after the construction of the first Beis HaMikdash, around 200 years after the construction of the first Beis HaMikdash. Before that, they had just coins, which was silver weight, and you can have words, but not images. So he says that since the originator of currency was Avraham Avinu, so therefore all coins actually had a holiness. But once they started to make images on the coins, which was not like Tosfos says that they did in Yerushalayim in times of Avraham Avinu, it became a whole different type of reality, and therefore Reb Menachem Bar Semai didn't want to see them.
When he said the first Beis HaMikdash?
He says 200 years. He swore in a book that around 200 years after Beis HaMikdash, a king decided to make currencies in a coin. That's what the Chaim Sofer brings in his drashas Chelik Aleph Amud Kuf Gimel.
Interesting. I just saw a coin, 2,400 years old, from time of Shushan Purim, and it's written Yichud on it.
Yichud.
Yichud, like Yehudi.
Interesting. Written letters. So this is from before the second Beis HaMikdash, 2,400 years ago, and it just said words, Yehud, like a Jew. Where's the coin from?
They excavated from Ir David.
Wow.
And
I think I saw one with a picture.
There is some kind of image. I couldn't see it personally.
Okay, interesting.
Found it. That means it was after.
Bar Kochva, I think Bar Kochva had a picture of Daled Minim, no? Daled Minim. But that's after the destruction of the second Beis HaMikdash.
There's a menorah, I think.
They had the menorahs, they had
Right,
different
yeah, I
things,
saw it near done.
But this is like a 2,000.
Yeah, they bring also from a Sefer Imrei Haskell, the pshat of the Gemara is that he never looked at Suras Matbeya was that he did not give prominence to people because of their wealth. That's what it means. He never looked into a coin. He said very many people, they give tremendous prominence and significance, value. The fact that somebody was rich didn't mean much to him, and therefore he was a B'non Shel Kedoshim, he could remain holy. Likutei Basa Likutei brings from the Iyun Yaakov that it means that he was not stingy. He gave a tremendous amount for tzedakah. In other words, he didn't look at the coin before he gave it away to see, can I give it, can I not give it? He was free, and that's why he was called a Kadosh, because it says about Hashem, Hakel HaKadosh Nikdash B'Tzedakah. He's sanctified through tzedakah. He wasn't so conscientious and cautious about every single coin. He was more generous, distributing his money freely for charity.
You said that Avraham Avinu invented the coins, but when he purchased Torah Machpelah, Rashi said
Arba Meir shekel kesef.
coins that were accepted anyway. It's
Oivel HaSoicher.
relevant already.
Right. Interesting. The Chaim Sofer says the Monsey Harishon was Avraham Avinu. It says even Yaakov made a currency, right? When he came back over there, he made a currency.
So is that the reason why he needed one
It
Havdalah?
wasn't his life.
One separate.
Oh. So now the interesting thing is this a coincidence that Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi did one Havdalah, the B'non Shel Kedoshim did one Havdalah? We read the Gemara, it just almost looks like it happens to be Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi did one Havdalah, the B'non Shel Kedoshim did one Havdalah. Why is he doing a B'non Shel Kedoshim? Why is he called B'non Shel Kedoshim? Because he didn't look at a Tzuras Matbeya. So Al Pi Pashit, it doesn't look like it's connected. It happens to be this was his shitta. But l'cha'oida, when you learn the Gemara, it's quite understandable that there was a reason he did one Havdalah, and it's probably connected to him being called a B'non Shel Kedoshim. So what are you saying?
I think maybe because every day was so holy to him, so was he such a... He needed only one Havdalah. Because he was such a holy person, so...
It says here that Bishmoa Bilamudim says that Rabbi Nachman's refusal to gaze at the images on the coins was not related to the Isser of looking upon Avodah Zorah, but rather was a step he took to distance himself from infatuation with wealth.
Maybe every day.
He was removed from the world of money and wealth. He didn't want to be infatuated with it. I mean, that's the literal interpretation. So he didn't gaze. He didn't gaze at... There's a sefer called Mei HaShiloyach from the Rebbe of Ishbitz. The back of the sefer, it's on Chumash, he has Torah on the Gemara. So I saw last night in Pesachim, he has a beautiful Torah on this Gemara. Me'er Shiloach says as follows. He says, Havdalah is only something that's not easily separable. Because if it's clearly distinguishable, you don't have to make Havdalah. Havdalah means there's a need to separate. In other words, the two things can be mixed. And that's why you need to make a Havdalah. You need to make a separation. If it's very easy to distinguish, then you don't need Havdalah because it's muvdal. It's two separate things. Fire and water are not mixing. Because if the fire comes into the water won't be water. The water will evaporate. If the water comes into the fire will be extinguished. That's why we say, for example, Hamavdil bein kodesh l'chayil. It's very easy to confuse kodesh and chayil. On the surface, the mundane and the holy may seem identical. The mundane may even be more enticing and appealing than the holy. So you need a special eyes, you need a special depth, a special perception to be able to be mavdil between the two. So he says, Azay, that sometimes when you look at something from a surface perspective, it doesn't look distinguishable. You have to have a deeper awareness. That's why Rabbi has said, don't do less than 3 Havdalas, and don't do more than 7. And the Benon Shal Kedoshim says only 1. Who else says only 1? Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi, who's called Rabbeinu HaKadosh. So isn't it interesting that those who are called Kedoshim only believe to do 1 Havdalah, and the rest are supposed to do more Havdalas? Says, what's the vart? Says, the reason you add Havdalos is because the person doesn't have the ability to immediately distinguish between Kodesh and Chayil. So he needs more examples, more illustrations. That's why he brings in more things, like you bring in Ben Or L'Choshech, light and darkness, Ben Yisrael La'amim, Ben Yom HaShvi L'Sheish Yisimei HaMaisa. You bring in different types of Havdalos so that you could appreciate the concept of Havdalah more. So you have to say there's night and there's day and there's a Havdalah between them, and then you can say, ooh, and that's Shabbos and Yom Tiv, and that's Yisrael La'amim. You need more illustrations, more examples, more metaphors, more mashalim, more parables to be able to introduce the Havdalah. The Benon Shal Kedoshim, or Rabbeinu HaKadosh, Omer Achas. He got it. Once is enough. He got it. He immediately perceived that there's two worlds. There's the world of Kodesh and there's the world of Chayil. So he says, B'hashkafa Rishoina, in the first glance, wherever he is, he right away sees the Havdalah. Says that's why the Gemara says, what makes him a Benon Shal Kedoshim? The lo yistakel b'tzuras ha'zuzah. He didn't see the tzuras ha'zuzah. When you learn the Gemara at the surface, it's just an example of why he was holy. He says, no, that the Gemara brings it in because that's the whole toichen. Why? Because it says, Lo hayeroye klum al hatzura v'al halavush v'rak haven hapnimius. He didn't lo yistakel b'tzuras ha'zuzah. He didn't get affected by the tzura, by the outer picture and the image, the garment, the cloak of the matbeya. Lo yistakel b'tzuras ha'zuzah. What he was looking for was the pnimius, the internal dimension. He wasn't looking at the tzura, at the outer form, what it looks like, the PR element. In other words, when you look at the pnimius, you right away could see the Havdalah. This is Kodesh, this is Chayil. That's why he could make 1 Havdalah, and Rabbeinu HaKadosh also. Where everybody else, you make more Havdalahs.
He didn't look at the form, the content was really good.
Yeah, the content was more important than the form. The substance, the pnimius, was far more important than the chitzonius, than the outer tzura. You know what picture perfect, right? A Kodak moment. It looks good. It's very nice. That's the power of Chayil. The power of Chayil is it looks good, but when you look at a pnimius, on a pnimiusdika level, there's a Havdalah. This is toiv, this is not. This is Tomei. Tomei and Torah look identical. When something is Tomei, something is Torah, you don't see a difference. It's all pnimius. It's all very deep energy. Yeah, Yisrael La'amim, Shabbos and Chayil. These are all subtle things. So we bring in Or L'Choshech because we want a physical illustration. I saw this Fasema says that Hamavdil ben Kodesh L'Chayil exists on 3 levels: Olam, Shana, Nefesh, space, time, and people. It says Hamavdil ben Kodesh L'Chayil. And this is now you go 3. Ben Or L'Choshech is in space. There's light and there's darkness. Ben Yisrael La'amim is in people. There's the Jew, there's the non-Jew. But Yom HaShvi l'Sheish Zman Ma'aseh is in time. Because everything in the world exists on a level of space, on a level of time, and a level of soul. Olam, Shana Nefesh. Or l'Choshech is Olam, Yisrael Amim is Nefesh, and Yom HaShvi l'Sheish Zman Ma'aseh is Man. So Rosh Tevis V'Har Sinai Oshan. Oshan is Olam, Shana, and Nefesh. So that's the reason why the Gemara is medayik lo yistakel b'tzursa dezuzah, and therefore he could make one Havdalah. Life was very clear. The Havdalah of life was very clear. This is holy, this is unholy, this you embrace, this you don't embrace, this is good for you, this is not good for you, this is connected to this is connected to this. It was very clear, the Havdalah, he didn't have to parkezich. He didn't have to dissect and integrate and go deeper and so on and so forth. And the Gemara finishes and says, the last nekuda, Shalach lei Reb Shmuel Baridi. Reb Shmuel Baridi sent a message. It doesn't say to whom, so it's hard to know. Chananya achi oimer achas. My brother Chananya also says one. But the Gemara says, V'les hilchus kavasei. The halacha is not like that, not like him, because this is a unique avodah, we understand, connected to B'non Shel Kedoshim. But the halacha is not like achi. We usually do minimum 3, which is how we do it. The next sugya, the Gemara goes into what the 7 Havdalos are, what the 3 are, what the 7 are, etc. We'll continue tomorrow. Shalah HaKadosh, Chaim HaKadosh.
If they made one or two.
They had the title of I think there are 7 HaKadosh.
Yeah?
Arvei HaKodesh, Shlo HaKodesh, Rabbi Yehuda HaKodesh,
Rabbeinu HaKadosh. But it's very rare, it's very rare. Shalah is called Kadosh.
just the yard
Who wrote the Shlomo Al-Kabes was...
L'Chadaydi.
He was not. No, he was not.
You gotta have it around 10:15, we'll leave it.
Zay mit Asach Hatzlacha, Asach Hatzlacha. Keep in touch.
This class is brought to you by theyeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.